Hi everyone, this is Jay Johnson with the Daily Texture Project. I've been making some new textures lately that are very bright, very colorful, and very abstract. And some people, including me, are afraid of color, especially very bold colors. But I've been wanting to do this for a long time, so I am forcing myself to work with these bolder colors and see how I can take my photos, integrate them with the bolder colors, and turn them into something very artistic and very artsy. And I've been following a little process with the last 5 images I've done. I'm doing a series of this first series of bold textures I'm doing is called Summer Blast, and there's 7 of them. And I'm on number 6 right now. Today's daily texture is Summer Blast 6. And I've done 5 of these so far, and I've done them the same way, every image, and they've all worked very well. So I thought I would take you through number 6, which I have not done yet, so you're watching this right as I'm doing it from scratch. Um, Here is the texture. As you can see, it's very bold, very abstract, lots of color, very saturated, and I'm going to blend the texture with this photo of a female lion. I've done several male lions. I figured it was time for the female to have her time. So the first thing I'm going to do, this photo was, oh, let me back up just a second. The textures are so bright, I've been using a lot of images that are taken in direct sun. This one has a little bit more of pastel colors through here, and this is going to warm it up, the oranges and reds anyway. So I thought I would try this one with a photo that was not taken in direct sun. So I chose the lion because her colors are a little softer, and I thought they might blend better with the pastel parts of the texture. But we'll see if it'll work or not. First thing I'm going to do, because the photo was taken, this one was taken in a little bit of shade, there's a little bit of graininess here, so I'm going to denoise it. And I'm working in Topaz, the Topaz software suite. Okay, there, she's getting denoised now, just to take down that graininess a little bit. And this process just takes a minute. As many of you have watched my videos before know that I love Topaz. The software I go into it using the Photo FX Lab filter, which gives me access over here to all of the different modules that I've purchased from Topaz, and I just like to go in there. That way I can use whichever one I want. Okay, Miss Lion, I'm ready for you to get done. This is probably the slowest process of it right here. And she's almost there. Takes just a minute for it to register. Okay, she's denoised. Now, what I've been doing with these is I really want to pump up the color, and I pump up the detail, and then I take some of the detail away, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. So we're going to go into Topaz Adjust, and in the Vibrant collection there's several choices here, and I like to use Bold right here, which brings out the detail. However, I'm not sure if I think that's a little too much detail. So I'm going to choose the transparency. Right now it's set on 0 transparency. If I bring it all the way over to the right, it takes it all away. I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle. That just pumps up the division of colors a little bit. I'm going to click on the color tab and see what I can do about boosting her saturation up a little bit. There we go. Because since the texture is really saturated, I want her to be really saturated as well. It may be a little too much. Okay. I'm liking that. So we're going to hit OK. and let it process through this. And I should have duplicated my photo layer, but I didn't. But that's okay. I can work with it. Okay, so now she's a lot more saturated, and if I bring down her opacity a little bit, you could see how she's going to blend with this texture, which I do this a lot, just kind of move my opacity to see if it's going to look right, and the reds and golds or oranges are in the right place. Now I'm going to mask away the background and actually bring the texture in with a line. So this is my masking tab here. And I'm going to turn the flow all the way up because I want to get rid of all of this. I'm going to bring the brush size up, and I keep the hardness on the brush right here. I keep it all the way down. I like a very soft brush. And I'm just going to go around the edges, getting close to her but not coming over her fur at this point. Now I could use Topaz Remask if I wanted to get a very exact mask around her, but I don't. This is an abstract texture. I'm trying to create an abstract work of art. I'm not worried about perfection. Now I lowered my brush size here so I can get in closer around her ears, top of her head, and I'm basically masking this totally away though at full opacity. So it's bringing the full opacity of the texture through. And I'm just going to go as close to her edges. Whoops. Control Z is your friend when you make a mistake. And I'm going to go as close to her edges as I can without going over her fur yet. I may go over a little bit, but I can always fix that later if I want to. Now you can see the little mask here, and I can see some little areas on this side here and across the top that aren't totally black. So I'm gonna looking at my mask and then go over here to try to find those spots, like this corner right here. You can see that how it changed that. And then I'm going to make the brush big and go over that again just in case I missed anything. I'm going to make it smaller. Come right around the top of her head here where there's this black showing because I want this to blend. And right here. Okay, now I've brought the texture in as the background. Now I'm going to bring some of the texture over her fur. So at this point I'm going to lower the flow, which is like opacity, make the brush size a little bigger, and just kind of gently tap, very short strokes as I bring it over her fur, just to get an idea of how this is going to look. I'm going to go all around her edges, and then down here in this corner, and even across the bottom just a little bit. Now, I'm going to raise the flow up, which is going to give me a stronger masking away of the texture. I'm going to bring the brush up, and just to see how this is going to look, I'm going to bring some really strong texture over her. With these very strong textures, don't be afraid to just really bring it over the subject and just see how it's going to look. Now I've masked away a little bit too much of her, so we're going to lower the brush, push the brush value to the other side, which will reveal some of this, bring some of this back. Let's see here. Okay, that's too much. Control Z, because I don't want any of her background showing. I'm going to lower this flow a little bit, make the brush size a little bigger, and just tap through here to reveal just a little bit more of her body right there, her leg. And I still think I want some more texture brought over that corner. So I'm going to make the brush a little bigger, make the flow a little bit more, and just kind of gently sweep around the corner, sort of creating a vignette of the texture. And then around here too. And this is how I do back and forth, back and forth. If I get a little too much, I'll back some of it off, and I adjust the flow constantly. And tap. I tap quite a bit. but that brings the texture right into her. And that's, I'm kind of liking the way that looks. Now we're going to do some other things which are going to change this even more. Um, at this point, here's what I've got. I've got a very abstract, let me lower this brush size because it's too big, it's driving me crazy. All through here it's a very abstract texture. And then I've got a very realistic lion because it's a photograph, so it's going to be realistic. Mask some of that off right there and some of her ear. Keep her ear showing a little bit more. The When I first started doing these, I would get to this stage and I would think, well, that looks okay, but there's something wrong with this picture. There's something I'm not liking about it. And what I realized was this texture is very abstract, very painterly, but this is not. The subject photo is too realistic. So at this point is when I started playing with some filters to give the photo a more painterly look. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate the photo layer, which is going to make her look stronger. So you see the difference along, look, like, watch right here when I turn that duplicate layer back on, right in through here. It makes the edges, brings back some of the edges I've masked away and makes them stronger. See? Now, that's fine, except for she needs to get painterly. So I'm going to go to Topaz Simplify, which is where the painterly filters are. And I have two favorites. I have one called Buzz Sim that I try, and I also have the Pastel that I like. We're going to try Buzz Sim first. We're going to click that. Now she's looking kind of painterly. My goal is her face, though. So let me raise this up. There. Now you can see it's made her look very painterly, but it's a little choppy. It's a little bit too much detail lost. So I'm going to reduce the size, simplify size down, which is going to bring back some of the detail. And I play with these settings in here. We really don't need a lot of details. And I turn them down and up and just mess around with them. Back and forth. If I screw up, I always can hit the reset button. Let me see here. I am going to boost her saturation just a little bit more. Structure. Now this might help to take, there we go. Now see, that takes those sharp edges down a little bit, because I don't like the sharp edges of the painterly look. This is the original, and this is what I've done. So now it looks more painterly, and I've reduced the sharp edges by going under the Adjust tab for this particular filter and going to Structure and taking that down. And I'm going to take the Structure Boost down just a little bit and maybe raise the structure up a little. I like the Structure Boost up, so I'm going to put that back. Okay, that's the photo. This is the painterly look. Now, we're going to hit OK and let this process. So this is on a separate layer because I've duplicated my photo layer. After this gets done processing, what I'm going to do is go on this layer, the painted layer. I'm going to mask away some of the eyes and the nose and the mouth a little bit to reveal part of the photo underneath. I'm not going to do very strong masking away, just to bring a little bit more detail back through here. So it basically ends up being a mix of a painting and a photo, which when blended with the textures make a very nice finished look. You're going to have people say, is that a painting or is that a photo? And you're going to say yes, because it's both. Now you can use any painting filter that you would choose in any of your software. I know a lot of softwares have different filters. I know there's Topaz Impressions where you could pre-make a layered of the photo that you're going to work with as a impressionistic painting and then put it on top of the original photo and mask parts of it away. So watch my photo here as it becomes very painterly. There we go. Now, this is where I'm going to mask away some of these eyes. So we're going to go back to the mask and leave the flow down pretty low, brush size pretty small, and I'm just going to go in here and gently mask away some of the painted part of the eyes, which will reveal a little bit more detail. I'm going to do the same thing around the nose area a little bit and bring back some of the nose and mouth detail and a little bit of the fur here around her mouth. There's a little piece of fur, loose fur hanging over her nose, so I'm going to get that, and a little bit of ear fur just to reveal some detail. And I'm going to blow this up so you can see. So see, now her eyes are part of that is masked away, revealing the photo of the eyes underneath, and same with the nose and some of the fur, but most of it I'm leaving painterly. The eyes, nose, face, mouth, that all of that is the most important part. Okay. Now right here, I'm not liking this. If I turn this layer I just did on and off, that is making that look a little bit less. I'm going to go back to the original photo layer, back to the mask, and I'm going to remove some of that texture from that portion of her right there, because that's actually her. Well, it's not really, well, I'm not removing it, I'm putting it back on. No wonder it's not working. See, I told you I was doing this from scratch, and you're just kind of along for the ride here. Okay, now that's revealing more of the fur, and I might actually try to reveal a little background here. Let's see how that'll look. I still need to pull some texture back over there, so we're going to go back the other way, and we're going to come down here right along the bottom of this leg and just kind of gently brush. I'm using a very soft brush and a very low opacity and tapping. And then back to this corner again. These corners really bug me. I like them to blend fairly smoothly. And this ear is bothering me up here, so I'm going to reduce the brush size and actually work on coming over that ear a little bit more. And bring some of that texture right down over her fur right there. Just like painting, you're just painting away her fur or painting her fur back and revealing the texture that's underneath. And just go around her a little bit more. I don't like sharp edges. I like everything to blend. Now that's looking pretty good. The problem is she's got a little bit of blue cast here in her fur, which I'm not liking. So I'm going to see if I can fix that. And I'm going to try to fix it on the painterly layer. I'm going to go back to Topaz Adjust and see if I can do something to warm up the whites there, because they're a little bit too blue. We're going to go to the Classic Collection and try Brilliant Warm. Now that didn't work. No, I don't like that either. That made her a little warmer. Too warm. Reset. This is when reset comes in handy. Let's go to the Vibrant Collection and try Autumn. Autumn warmed everything up a little bit, including the blues on That's before the autumn adjustment, and that's after. Maybe a little bit too much, but that's where Control Z comes in handy. We're going to hit OK and see what this looks like. If I don't like it, I can Control Z it and undo it. Ooh, I like that. That made her fit in better with these oranges, the oranges and reds here around her. Let's undo it so you can see the previous one. Undo. See, she's got kind of a greenish bluish cast to her, but yet this is really warm right here, which the greenish blue does fine coming in through here with these green parts of the texture. But this is the most important part. So this is what I need to get to blend right. So we're going to redo that autumn adjustment, which warmed everything up. And now she blends better with these oranges and reds right here. Okay, I like that. Now we're going to play with actually duplicating the texture layer and putting it on top. And we're going to play with some adjustments here. And one of the ones I've been using with these particular images that are very saturated with color is color dodge. Now that's full strength and it's very, very wild. We're going to bring the opacity of that layer down to about somewhere between 10 and 20. Before, after. Still a little bright. But I'm going to leave it at 20 right now because I'm going to duplicate the texture layer again. I'm going to play with some other layer modes. Multiply, overlay, soft light, hard light. Those are my favorites. Color burn. Overlay, soft light, hard light. Let's mess with hard light. Okay, hard light will make. Let's go to 100% and see what kind of adjustment we're getting. Multiply would make it too dark. Overlays too saturated. Soft lights. Okay, hard lights too much. Let's go to soft light, but then bring that opacity all the way down and then gently ease it up. 49 might be a little much. Let's try around 30. Off, on, off, on, off, on, and I'll do that a lot. Now let's go back to the color dodge layer, take it all the way down, and just bring it up very slowly until it's just a little bit brighter. I think 20 is too much. I'm going to try 10. That's off and that's on. That brightens it just enough. I am liking this. I think this fits really well. The only part that I'm not thrilled with still is this right here. And I'm going to I turn off and on, or my layers on and off frequently to see where I'm getting this from. This is coming from that's on, that's off. When you turn the painted layer off, you can see this has a lot too much texture right there. That's coming from the original photo layer, so we're going back to that, back to a mask, and we're going to take off some of this right here again. And I'll do this throughout. As I put those other layers of texture on top, it'll often reveal areas I'm not happy with. That's a little better right through there. I could still bring a little of it over her leg, so I think I'll do that. But make a smaller brush and just kind of get rid of that hard edge right there. That's a little better than it was. Now, this is what I like to do when I'm getting close to being done. I will zoom out on the image so I can pretend I'm looking at it from a distance. Because a lot of times when you do that, you can close your eyes for a second, open your eyes, and you can see your problem areas. I still think this bottom is a problem area. So we're going to bring that back up. It's too bright for me. So, starting with the original photo layer, I'm going to go to Lens Effects. And this little tool in Lens Effects I'm getting to show you is really nice. The Graduated Neutral Density Filter. You can choose different places on the image which will darken down that brightness. Now that's darkening bottom half 2 stops. That's darkening quite a ways up. So I'm going to go to bottom quarter, which darkens right here. There's 1 stop. That's before. That's after. Let's do 2 stops. Before, after. I'm liking the after on that one. So we're going to choose bottom quarter 2 stops, which is going to darken this bottom portion by 2 stops on the original photo layer. And we'll see if that makes any difference on this bottom area. Well, that helped a little bit, but let's do the same thing on the painted layer. Go to Lens Effects. Bottom quarter 2 stops. That's pretty dark. Let's do 1 stop and see if that's enough on that layer. It helped a little bit. But here's what I can do. At this point I'm going to merge them all. So I'm going to choose from stack. And once this is all merged and the texture and the lioness are one, then I'm going to go back to that Lens Effects and darken the bottom portion here of the image. But it's going to be of the merged image instead of the individual layers. Rather than have to sit here and fool with those, I can go ahead and merge it, see what it's going to look like. And one of these days it may get done. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go to Lens Effects. Now that everything's merged, and we're going to go to the bottom quarter 1 stop, 2 stops. This is before, this is after. I think 2 stops takes away too much detail, so let's go to 1 stop and try that and hit OK. And that darkened it a little bit more. So this is before, this is after. Let's zoom out to look at it from a distance. Alright. That's before, that's after. Now I could apply a vignette around the edges if I wanted to, but I don't want the other edges to be dark, just the bottom. But I could apply a vignette and then mask it away, except for just on the bottom. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to go back to the original texture layer, duplicate it, bring it all the way up on top. If I can get it up there. There we go. Alright. Now we're going to play with this. Ooh, multiply way too dark. Let's bring the opacity down. Bring it down to about. I'm just going to see if anything can be done here. And this is what I do. It's a bunch of playing. Funnest job in the world to sit here and play with these. I'm just going through the various layer modes to see if anything else might speak to me. Hard light is kind of interesting. It adds a lot more texture to the lion, but it's darkening her too much. Yes, even at 30%, it's darkening her too much. Alright, here's something I'm going to do, I think. I chose the hard light I put the texture back on top of my merge layer, chose hard light at about 30%, which brought some of the texture back into the line, gave her a little bit more interest. But when I had the saturation originally, it was just too bright. I mean, I like bright, but I don't want to go like extremely overboard. So what I did is just brought the saturation of that hard light layer all the way down. Now when I turn it off, you can see that that's what I originally had after merging. And then when I turn it on, it kind of tones things down a little bit through here, but adds more interest through here. It shifts the light, basically, is what it's doing. You watch her face right here. This is off, and this is on. So it shifts the light, and right now your focus is more on this side where all the light is, but when you put the hard light layer on, it brings the focus more to the center of her face. And I'll just sit here and turn them off and on, and it may be a little too dark now that I'm looking at it. One thing I could do is raise the exposure up of that layer, but nah, I don't like that. Let's see. No, because that makes her look kind of washed out. Nope, not going to do that. And that's part of what I do. Back and forth, back and forth. Put a layer on, play with it, adjust saturation, adjust exposure on the texture itself, and see if I can come up with anything else that I like. I don't particularly like this now that I'm looking at. I like the original better that I had already merged, so I'm going to delete that layer off the top and stick with this. This is pretty heavy on the oranges and reds, which is kind of neat because that's out of these summer blast textures. Most of them have had more of a goldish tone, except for the Summer Blast 5. The one prior to this, which I am including in my blog post today because I didn't make a blog post yesterday, it's a little darker. I'm liking this though. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I want to do to it. And I don't think there is at this point. I like it. So at this point I would hit OK up here at the top and go back to my host program. But I wanted to show you something else. I'm going to duplicate the texture layer again and bring it. Oh no, I'm going to duplicate it. Not move it, duplicate it. Then move it. I'm going to put it up on top. If some of these textures here are, since they are so saturated and are full of color, if you like the texture, but that color is just a little bit too much for you, when you're first working with it, you have a couple things you can do. And I'm going to show you, this is going to teach you how to get a little bit more use out of the textures you buy, because you don't have to use them just like this, just like they are. There's in your software, most softwares have a way to adjust saturation up or down. So if this was a little bit too saturated, you can adjust your saturation down, and look at that. It's given it a lot more neutral tones, but yet the texture stays the same. That's one way to handle adjusting it. Another thing you can do if you want to change something with the texture, actually making it become a whole new texture, is you could adjust exposure if you wanted to really darken it, adjust it up if you really wanted to lighten it. Now this is on just the texture by itself. If you're working with this and you're like, no, that's too much color for me, pull that saturation down and you'll still get the use of the texture. Or pull, if you want a darker texture, if your subject is darker, like a black animal or a darker scene, a night scene or something like that, pull the exposure down and darken it where you still get some effect from the texture, but you're not losing the texture. So you can actually make adjustments to your textures, and if you find one you like if you pull the saturation down and you say, oh, I like those colors, they look more mauve and purple now. If you like that, go ahead and save that as another file in addition to the original texture, and then you have a second texture you can work with just by making an adjustment in saturation. You can also adjust colors. You can adjust the tints and get real pinky and purple or fall colors by adjusting tints. You can adjust the temperature, make it warmer, make it cooler, and you can save all these variations as a totally separate texture so that you can use it again without having to adjust it again. If you find that you like a desaturated look more, you can desaturate this a little bit, save it, and rename it as Summer Blast 6 Desaturated. Now here's another thing that Topaz software has that I often will play with the textures. I'll like the texture, but it's not working right with the photo. I need to change color tones. I'll go to Topaz Restyle. And this is amazing, this Topaz Restyle, because this basically has a lot of color combinations coded into the software that you can choose from that will allow you to change your whole tone of either a photo, a texture, a finished image. So let's say you're doing an image for a client. You do a real bright one and they're like, well, I like it, but it's a little too bright. I like more of the earthy tones. You can either pull down the saturation, or you can go into something like Topaz Restyle, and you can, let's go to landscape. And let's go through here. These are some of the landscape color modules. And let's say the client wanted something more earthy. You could change the tone of your texture to be something more earthy, or your finished image, either one. But look at all these combinations you can get by using Topaz Restyle with one texture. And so let's say you wanted something on the warm side desaturated. That's a little bit too much, but look how much that changes. You can always adjust the opacity right here in Restyle too. Like, let's bring it down to this. Now you've gone from a really bright summer texture to a really interesting kind of autumn or winter, a mix of autumn and winter texture, just by using Topaz Restyle. And you could save this if you wanted. You could click OK, and you could save just this texture layer as another file. Name it, instead of Summer Blast 6, name it Autumn Blast 1, or whatever you want to call it. But it's a way to textures that you can use with other images out of the same file. See, it's changed that. So at that point, I could go to File, and I could do Save As, and I could save just this layer right here, and give it a totally different name. So then I could work with this with another picture. But let's just go show you the finished image here. Okay, here's the finished image that I came up with. So let's say I was doing this for a client, and the client says, oh, I really like this abstract look, but it's a little bit too bright on the oranges and the reds for my decor. I want something a little on the more earthy. Take that merged image, go to Topaz Restyle. And you can do this in other softwares too. There's ways to adjust color hues. But let's go to Topaz Restyle, and if it'll ever open up, it should choose the last one I used. So that's the last one I used, but the opacity is at 100%, and I reduced that example I just showed you down to about 58%, somewhere in there. So let's hit OK. I should have duplicated this first, but I'll just undo it with the Control Z, because I want to keep my bright colored one. So let's say client doesn't like the bright color one, it's a little bit too much, they want something a little more earthy. By using Topaz Restyle, you haven't had to redo the entire image. You can just adjust the colors of the same image. The texture is all still here. The abstract look is all still here. Just the color tones have changed by using Topaz Restyle. And you can use you can use it, different color combinations from Restyle, one on top of the other, and adjust your layers. Your opacity of those different layers. But I like my bright one, so I'm going to keep it. I just wanted to show you how you could get more use by adjusting color tones of the textures and still keep the texture itself. Okay, we're going to undo this, go back to my bright image, and I'm going to hit OK at this point, which is going to bring it back into my PaintShop Pro software. I know this video has gotten way too long. I really talk too much. I know some of you like it. I know some of you think, man, does she ever shut up? But when I'm talking about textures, no. I don't. Because I just love working with them. I love taking my photos and turning them into art. And this is a really fun way to do it. There's so many things you can do. So many different combinations of things you can do by using the textures and by blending them with the photos. And as this one proved, you can do another layer as a painterly layer, and it will give your look that painterly look, but not over the top like some digital painting software will do when you tell it to auto process it. Sometimes it looks kind of over the top. By blending it with the original photo underneath it, you've toned down that that really computer painterized look, and you've kind of done a mix of that and the realistic, which softens it up a little and makes it look better. And this thing is taking forever to process. There we go. So there's my lion, and just to show you, that's the texture I started with, and there's my lion, and I'm calling her done. And I appreciate you watching. I hope this helps you feel a little bit better about working with these strong colors, and that you will see that you can do a variety of type of images with these textures that are very strong colored. They work great on city scenes. Not so sure about landscapes, but if you liked very vibrant landscape, they would work with that, especially in the overlay soft light or hard light modes on top of a landscape. With just putting the texture on top of it, it can change the whole color tone of your landscape without doing any masking whatsoever. It can just throw some reds and oranges in that landscape that may be kind of dull, and you can really brighten it up just by putting the texture on top as a certain layer mode. And then you can, of course, use it like I have here and blend it with a variety of subjects. And this whole color expressions line of work that I'm doing is I plan on doing a whole lot of subjects using this method and using these very bright saturated colors. The very bright saturated colors are very commercially appealing, I guess is the word right now. And I've been wanting to do these for a while, but I've kind of been scared that like it was too much color. But people really like them, and they look really good on lots of fun products like pillows and rugs and blankets and the art prints, of course. But there's so many other products that this particular style image just really looks fun and powerful on those other products, coffee mugs, tile trivets, things like that. And they just really make the products come to life when you put these type of images on those products, and they're very commercially appealing. So that's why I wanted to do them. But I plan on doing lots of wildlife, dog breeds, songbirds, the birds of prey, of course, that's it being included in the wildlife. I'm going to do some other subjects too in this same manner. For instance, some food subjects like cupcakes and fruits, and I have a whole list here somewhere of different ones, flowers, seashells, just things like that that might blend well with these type of textures because I have photos of all of these things. I'm just looking on ways so they get a little bit more exciting look and they become more commercially appealing, and these bright colors really do that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to stop the video now because I'm sure that you're tired of hearing me, but I hope this will make you feel a little bit better about working with these bold, bright, abstract colors because they're a lot of fun and so freeing, and you can always keep the texture but change the color tone in the method I showed you, and you can do it in your regular software like Paint Shop Pro. You can change color tones in this software as well. I just prefer to use Topaz. I love that Topaz restyle. Anyway, you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you another time. Thanks for watching.